Hello, and welcome to Thinking Solo, where we talk about ways to succeed in business and in life. I am your host, Ryan DeRusso, and I'm a fee-only financial advisor, and you can find me at thinkingcapfinancial.com, as well as many other places, including LinkedIn under my name, or this YouTube page, Thinking Solo. Today, I'm going to talk about something that's a little different in that I'm going to explain a little bit of difference between how you go about seeking financial help. Lately, I've gotten a lot of questions and uh, lack of understanding from friends, family, and people who've connected with me about sort of what their financial advisor is doing for them and how they're helping. And so today I just want to provide some clarity on that. And then, of course, at the end, we'll have a little bit of movie review as well. Thanks for being here and can't wait to get started. So today, the reason I wanted to tackle sort of what is a financial advisor is because there's a lot of terms out there that we come across and that you've come across, and you think sort of, okay, well, that they have that term and therefore they're helping me, and there's nothing to worry about. When in fact, that's just not true. These terms were built under very old way of working within the financial space where a lot of the financial advice was coming from insurance companies and brokerages, and those insurances and brokerages were just using the idea of financial advice in order to sell more insurance or brokerage products. And what happened was a group of advisors and experts got together to figure out sort of how can we separate the actual advice from the product, which is the insurance product or the ETF. And that's created a few different sort of categories and things to look out for, especially as being a small business owner. Oftentimes you need advice beyond just sort of, should I put my stocks in this, or do I need life insurance, or that sort of thing. You need a more holistic sort of approach. And so it's really important that you're getting quality advice, because there's so many sort of layers where you could be needing guidance and help. And if you get the wrong guidance and help, it can cost you a lot, not only on the front end in terms of how much you're paying, but also in the back end in terms of the long-term impact of those things. So first, let me start with what is a fiduciary advisor. So if you come across someone with a certified financial planning certificate, CFP, then they are a fiduciary. And what that means is that they theoretically have to put their benefit behind yours. So if there is a conflict of interest in some way, they need to either not pursue it, or they need to be very clear with you about that conflict of interest and what that means. Now, when you go to a Northwestern Mutual or, Fidelity, there's going to be plenty of people there with the CFP advisor certificate, and they still have to show that they are a fiduciary. But that fiduciary status is going to be a little different as opposed to someone who's sort of operating without that sort of backstop. And the reason being is because they still have a fiduciary duty to their employer as well, or the person who's sort of paying them. And so, when you go to a Northwestern Mutual advisor, yes, they need to put your benefit above theirs, but they also need to put their employer's benefit above all as well. And so it creates this, kind of weird dance where they're fiduciary, but they're going to sell you Northwestern products. They're not going to sell you Mass Mutual products or Vanguard products or vice versa. So it's an important caveat to that fiduciary standard, because yes, they're going to put your benefit ahead of theirs, but they also going to do that within the framework of how they were hired and how they were supposed to operate. There's also a term that developed called fee only, and this is really where sort of the business model of the financial advisor, of course, it connects with that fiduciary desire and need from a financial advisor. A fee only essentially built because a number of advisors recognize that there was some issues with that fiduciary duty when you're internally at an organization and they're selling products, because you're going to have to sell the products that they want to sell. And of course, they have a variety of products and they're hoping that their products are going to match your needs, but that's not always the case. But you're going to find the best product that you can based on that situation. And so what the fee only group sort of they developed as a way to basically say, look, we don't need to sell you the product. The product is the financial advice, and we don't need to be connected to an insurance firm. We don't need to be connected to a brokerage firm. We can connect you to people who do those things in order to get certain products when you need them. But how we are paid is not necessarily uh, it's not necessarily linked to the product itself. And that's really important, because now you can get third party, less conflict, for more conflict free advice, I guess I should say. And that way, when you're advised to get long-term disability or life insurance, or put these products in these, these investments in ththese specific funds, you know that they are not getting kickbacks from those organizations in order to fund, in order to encourage those investments or those products. And so you can trust that you're moving forward with the right sort of support. Now, there's other terms called fee-based, which is very similar to what the old commission sort of standard is, because they can also take commissions as well. And so that person may still take a commission and try and sell you life insurance or long-term disability or a universal life product or an annuity, because they're also getting a commission on the side. Or they may be doing you their proper fiduciary duty, and if you don't need it, not selling it to you, but they have the ability to. But fee-based is much closer to sort of that commission sort of style than it is the fee only, which is, the only fee is coming from you. And so that's an important distinction when you are going out and looking for a financial advisor. And really, it's kind of a good uh, stepping stone for any time you're seeking advice, and that is figuring out who is paying them and how are they paid. Because if you're not specifically paying them and they're also getting paid elsewhere to give said advice, no matter what the sort of service is, whether it's, taxes or, something else, then you're going to be at a disadvantage, because you're not truly getting the advice that you should be getting, which is, conflict free and whatnot. And so as a business owner, it's really important to understand the sort of how they are paid portion of the scenario when you are interviewing or researching any type of advisor, whether it's financial or otherwise. And when it comes to financial advice, the impact long term can be tremendous because of sort of the long tail of a lot of these products. If you go into a whole life insurance or universal life insurance way too early, or way not really necessarily the best sort of product for you, it's going to be years and years and years before you realize that. And it could be years and years and years before you see true benefits, whereas during the time period while you're building that up, you could have been doing something else that could have really grown the wealth or improved the business or something else. And so you really need to be careful with the sort of advice that you're getting, because if you're getting the right type of advice, your business will start to grow and improve, and you'll see the benefits of that. But if you are getting the wrong type of advice, you may see some growth, but it may be at the expense of your fees going to not secretly, but like within the portfolio or within on the back end to an insurance agent or a salesman of some sort. And if you don't see your wealth growing with your business, or your business really is suffering, it could be that drag that is playing a role. And so it's always good to, once a year, can connect with your advisors, all types of advisors, figure out sort of how they're paid, why they're paid, and make sure that you are getting their money's worth for the work that you are paying for them. Today's movie review is one that I'm certain all of you have heard of. It's Toy Story 5 because it's such a big movie right now. And it's, the fifth installment of the Toy Story series with Woody, Buzz, Jesse, and everyone else, the other part of the gang coming back. And, this is a group of movies that is really close to my heart because, I was probably in my high school, middle school to high school years when it first came out. Let's see, 96. So yeah, uh, early or late middle school probably when it first came out. And the first three movies were some of the best cartoon animation that um, you can possibly find. There's so much to love about each individual movie and so much to remember. And then Toy Story 4 came out and I liked it. It wasn't at top tier Toy Story by any means. And then now this one, which has come much quicker, it feels, than the others in the past. And when you're watching this movie, it's really the first time where I'm recognizing they're struggling to relive the past of success that Toy Story movies had. In part, some of the scenes feel stale. There are certain scenes where I could swear they picked them directly out of previous movies, and it's not in an ironic fashion or anything like that, but it's more like like memories, trying to like tickle us with memories with in terms of like past Toy Story movies, but they're not progressing the story enough to make it worthwhile as the viewer. And it's really sad to see because these do hold such a I hold them so close to my heart that to see them sort of turn into every other sort of IP game where each one is getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse and a little bit worse now. It's unfortunate to see, but I do think we may be there with the Toy Story franchise. But as an entrepreneur and a solopreneur and solo business owner, really what I look at is sort of the lack of innovation that is kind of built into the story now, and always the need to innovate. And once you're sort of like unable to move forward or find other business lines or recreate a different marketing scheme or something to excite you and whatnot, the business itself can really turn stale. And if you're starting to feel that, then it's time to find another outlet or another way to sort of improve or build that business because like Toy Story 5, you don't want the business to grow stale. And really that's what I was seeing a lot in Toy Story 5 is just sort of the staleness starting to take root. And it's always a big concern as a moviegoer and then as also a business owner. That's today's show. Thanks for listening. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, thinkingcapfinancial.com, as well as my YouTube page, Thinking Solo. Really appreciate you listening. And in the meantime, keep grinding.